Hey, good morning. Joe here. It's Firearms Friday. We're in the classroom again today as we continue our series of videos on the fundamentals of handgun shooting. So today we want to talk a little bit about stance, which is really part of follow through. So last week we just talked about the basics of follow through and using your hand. And today we want to talk about stance, which includes both your hands and arms and your feet. So let's look at the common stances we use, okay? The common stances are, of course, the turret or isosceles shooting stance. This stance is named after an isosceles triangle, which in this case, we're talking about the arms are the equal sides of the length, and the shooter's triangle is the shooter's chest here, okay? So proper isosceles triangle stance includes feet shoulder width apart, maybe a little wider, toes pointed at the target, not splayed out, and a slight bend of the knees and a forward lean is very common, especially for new shooters or smaller shooters shooting larger calibers that might need to lean forward just a little bit to handle that recoil. The arms are extended, forming the isosceles triangle. So let me show you what this looks like as I can. I'm going to use my assert gun here. This is a completely inert training weapon we have. Okay, so what that means now is I'm going to look at my feet, I'm going to put them shoulder width apart, and I'm going to extend the gun like so. And now I've got that isosceles triangle, as you can see right here. Okay, that's my isosceles triangle. So that is what we've got there for the basics of that. Now, as you'll see as we get into this a little bit more here, you can always taper these a little bit on your own and change up just a little bit to fit your particular needs. Just because the book says this doesn't mean you have to follow this 100%. You may need to shift your positioning a little bit or your grip a little bit to make sure it works for you. All right, so let's move it on. So now we want to talk about the Weaver shooting stance, named after our LA County Sheriff Jack Weaver back in the 50s. This is taught to a lot of new folks because it really works well. And you do this by moving your non-dominant leg, which is typically your left. For most right-handed people, their non-dominant leg is their left side. And that is moved forward of your dominant leg, typically your right. Like in my case, I'm right-handed, so my dominant leg is my right leg. The firing arm and the arm and hand that will pull the trigger is fully extended, while the supporting arm has a slight bend to it. Toes are again pointed towards the target, and the shooter will slightly lean forward. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. I'll get my SIRT gun here. All right, I've got my SIRT gun here, and I'm going to extend here. Now this one, I'm trying to emphasize this for you here. My right arm is in fact straight, and my left arm has a little bit of a bend. And if you look at my feet, my right leg is a little bit behind my left leg. Now this is really useful for smaller shooters, new shooters that are using larger caliber firearms. If you're shooting smaller caliber and you're a big guy like me, that's not really a problem. But the smaller shooters, especially a lot of ladies, need to use this kind of position to keep their balance to handle that recoil of a larger caliber. All right, so let's move on. So the adaptation of the isosceles Weaver stance is the shooter is square to the target with the feet shoulder width apart, or maybe wider. Firing side foot is just slightly behind the support side foot. Again, you can have this somewhere between the Weaver and isosceles feet placement. There's a slight bend in the knees and a forward lean as the shooter's arms are extended straight out. Now, again, I'm going to grab my SIRT gun here. Shooter's arms are extended straight out, like so. And again, I've got my foot just slightly behind my non-dominant leg, okay? All right, so that's that. Now, the key here is no one position is the panacea for everything, okay? Each position has a time when it's most appropriate. So for example, if you're in your home and you have an intruder, you're not going to be able to stand there head on and use an isosceles most likely. Most likely you're going to want to hide behind a wall and shoot around a barricade of some sort. So the basic stance is not going to work in that situation. Here in our classes, when we do advanced shooting classes here in Larry's, and we teach people to shoot around barricades. We teach them to shoot with their non-dominant hand and so forth. So the basic positions we've talked about here this morning will not work in every situation, but they are the great starting point. There are other variations that you can look into when you start shooting. Make sure though that you keep a good tight grip. Make sure your natural point of aim is where it needs to be. Move your feet if you're not in your natural point of aim. Make sure that you get in your natural point of aim whenever you go for this, okay? So the positions are very important in making sure you hit your target. along with sight picture, sight alignment, grip, all these things follow through are very important to make sure you're on target. All right, that's it for this week. Tune in next week. We're going to get a little closer to wrapping up our series on the fundamentals of handgun shooting. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.